Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel, and today I'm not asking for advice. I just want to share what happened, because honestly, I still can't believe I went through with it. It started with a ring. Not the one I bought her years ago. Not the one I nervously held in my sweaty palm behind the lighthouse on Miller's Point. No, this one was different. This one came off while my hands were shaking in the men's room of a restaurant I should have never walked into. The lights were dim. The walls were pretending to be fancier than they were. And somewhere between the kitchen and the wine rack sat my wife, giggling across a candlelit table with a man who wasn't me. His hand, resting casually on hers. My stomach was somewhere near my shoes. I didn't plan revenge. I didn't storm in. I didn't make a scene. I just stood there in front of the mirror, heart doing backflips, holding that symbol of forever like it was a pebble. And then I did something I never thought I would. I texted the waiter. Yes, texted. I had his number. Long story, involves a holiday party last year and a forgotten credit card. But that's not important. What matters is that I asked him, politely, if he could deliver something to a table near the window. Table 14. The one where my wife sat with her. Let's just call him the gym membership she lied about. The waiter agreed. I slid the ring into a black box. Slipped in a note, folded twice, creased sharp, and from the hallway near the bathrooms I watched. I watched the tray leave his hand. I watched her smile fade. I watched him lean back like he'd been slapped. And then, she opened it. She read it. And she looked around, eyes searching, scanning, calculating. She didn't find me, but I found what I needed. She held the box in her hand like it was radioactive. Her fingers trembled, but she tried to play it cool, probably hoping her date wouldn't notice. He noticed. He leaned in and whispered something, and she shook her head too quickly. I could tell she hadn't expected this. Not here. Not tonight. Not from me. And especially not through a waiter with a silver tray. I should have left then, but I didn't. I stood hidden in the hallway near the restrooms, peeking through the slim gap between the ivy-draped divider and the wall. My heart hammering so loudly I swear it echoed off the tiles. My palms were damp. I felt ridiculous, like some sad character in a low-budget drama. But I needed to see her reaction. I wanted to know if even an ounce of guilt would show up on her face. She opened the note, unfolded it slowly, like it might bite her. I had written just 12 words, and every one of them was a scar I carried. I gave you my forever. You traded it for Tuesday nights. Her lips moved silently as she read it. Twice, maybe 3 times. Then her expression changed. Not to sadness, not even shame. Just fear. Not the kind that comes from danger, but the kind people get when they realize they've been caught. Her date raised an eyebrow and gestured toward the note, clearly asking what it said. She crumpled it fast and stuffed it into her purse like it was nothing. But she looked around the restaurant anyway, trying to find me. She scanned the room like a hunted animal, eyes darting over every face, every table, even toward the exit. I turned my face away and leaned against the cold tile wall, breath stuck somewhere between my throat and my stomach. I waited for the sound of heels, for her to come running toward me, maybe to explain, or maybe to lie again. But nothing came, just silence. Then I heard her laugh, louder than before, forced. She leaned across the table and kissed him on the cheek, like I hadn't just sent her a message that should have shattered everything. That laugh sliced deeper than any scream would have. That was the moment I realized. She wasn't sorry. She was comfortable in the lie, and I was just the idiot who held on too long. I should have left that restaurant and never looked back. I should have tossed my phone into the river and started over somewhere quiet. Somewhere I wouldn't see her name on junk mail or hear her laugh in someone else's voice. But instead, like an absolute fool, I lingered. I waited just long enough to watch them get up from their table, to see her wrap her arm around his like it belonged there. He was grinning. She was glowing. And I was disintegrating in a hallway that smelled like garlic and floor polish. They walked out the front entrance, but I took the side door. My car was parked down the street, far from view. I didn't want her to know I'd been there. Not yet. Not fully. I stood behind the tinted glass of my car, watching as they stepped out into the cool night. She touched his shoulder and laughed again. That same high-pitched lie of a laugh. Then, out of nowhere, she paused. She looked over her shoulder, back at the restaurant. I ducked instinctively, heart pounding like a drum. Did she see me? She didn't. But she felt something. I swear she did. Her smile faltered. Her hand dropped from his arm. And for a second, just a single flicker of time, she looked like the woman I married, unsure, overwhelmed, maybe even guilty. But it passed. Just like everything else between us. She shook it off and got into his car like it was the most normal thing in the world. Like our life together hadn't just been tossed into a velvet box and delivered on a plate. I sat there for a long time after they drove off. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just stared at the empty passenger seat beside me. That's when the real shame crept in. Not because she cheated, but because somewhere deep down, I still wanted her to chase after me. To apologize. To fall apart in my arms and tell me it was all a mistake. But she didn't. Instead, a notification buzzed on my phone. A message from her. Heading to bed early. Love you. That's when I realized. She hadn't told him yet. Not about me. Not about us. She was still pretending I existed. Still playing both roles. Wife by text. Lover by touch. And suddenly, I wasn't just hurt. I was disgusted. I wasn't going to confront her anymore. I was going to expose her. I don't know what came over me that night. Maybe it was the way she smiled in that message. That fake love you, tacked onto a lie. Or maybe it was the 11 years I spent building a life with someone who was now sleeping beside a man who thought I didn't exist. But something cracked. Not loud. Not obvious. Quiet. Like the sound of threads snapping under pressure. And once it did, I couldn't stop myself. I started the car. No plan. No idea what I'd say. I didn't even know if I wanted to be seen. But I knew where she was going. She always had a pattern. A secret routine I wasn't supposed to notice. Same perfume. Same nights. Same route. And as pathetic as it sounds, I followed her. Quietly. Carefully. Like some broken-hearted amateur spy who forgot to bring self-respect. It wasn't even 10 minutes before I saw his car. Sleek. Silver. Parked outside a beige townhouse with lights still glowing upstairs. Hers was nowhere in sight, but I didn't need to see it. I knew she was there, and maybe a smarter man would have turned around. Maybe a man with dignity would have taken that as confirmation enough. But I wasn't that man. I parked across the street. Killed the engine. Watched. Minutes passed. No movement. No sound. Just my fingers tapping against the steering wheel and my breath fogging up the glass. I felt ridiculous. A husband hiding in a shadow, watching the collapse of his marriage unfold behind curtains. And yet I sat there anyway, hoping, needing something to happen. Anything. Then it did. A silhouette moved in the upstairs window. She was laughing again. Probably at one of his jokes. Or worse, one of mine retold. Then I saw him walk behind her. Shirtless. Confident. Familiar. And she leaned into him. Like she used to lean into me. Couldn't look away. I watched her silhouette disappear into the room. The light flicked off seconds later. And just like that, the last flicker of hope inside me went dark too. The next morning, she made coffee. I walked into the kitchen like nothing had happened. Though inside, I felt like I'd swallowed broken glass. She stood there in her oversized robe, humming, scrolling her phone like she hadn't just left me mentally bleeding in a parked car all night. When she turned and smiled, I almost choked on my breath. That smile, so practiced, so polished. It had lost its weight months ago, but now it felt insulting. She handed me my mug. "Early call today?" she asked casually, as if she hadn't spent the night with a man who wore cologne that lingered on her clothes even after a shower. I nodded, afraid that if I opened my mouth, I'd start screaming. She kissed my cheek. Just a brush. Barely there. I stared at the spot she touched, wondering how she could pretend so easily. That's when I realized something sickening. She still thought I knew nothing. She thought she had the upper hand. That her lies were working. That I was still the clueless husband who trusted her to go catch up with friends, while she was getting undressed in someone else's house. And the worst part? I had made it that easy for her. I had spent weeks doubting my instincts, swallowing my suspicions, begging for signs that I wasn't losing her, when she was already gone. That night after she left for yoga, I didn't follow. I didn't cry. I sat at my desk with a notepad and pen like I was back in high school trying to solve a math problem. I wrote down everything I knew: dates, messages, timings, changes in routine, patterns, gaps. Her lies weren't even that clever, just lazy, like she thought I'd never question her, like she believed I'd keep smiling through the silence. I started printing everything: screenshots, call logs, bank statements, even a restaurant receipt she forgot to toss. 2 entrees, 1 wine bottle, no yoga mat in sight. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. Because people like Darla didn't panic when they were caught. They panicked when they were exposed. And I was done being the quiet one. For the next few days, I played along. I smiled when she spoke. I asked how yoga was. I even offered to make her tea before bed. Meanwhile, I was staying up until 3 a.m. watching footage from the tiny camera I'd hidden inside our living room bookshelf. I know how that sounds: paranoid, dramatic, pathetic. But when trust dies, all that's left is evidence. And I was determined to get mine. She never brought him to the house, at least not that week. But her calls? They were frequent, hushed, and always followed by a fake yawn and a trip to Target. I recorded everything. Every whispered, "I miss you." Every giggle that didn't belong to me anymore. I knew her better than she thought. She always tilted her head when she lied, bit her lip when she was about to say something she'd rehearsed. And now every movement of hers was a performance. For me, for him, for the mirror. On Thursday, I got the break I didn't know I needed. She forgot her laptop at home. I shouldn't have opened it. I know that. But she had no password. Maybe she trusted me that much, or maybe she was just careless. Either way, the universe gave me a gift. Inside her messages, tucked neatly in a folder called Event Planning, were pictures. Dozens of them. Her in a red dress I'd never seen. Him holding her waist like he owned it. Their smiles were real. Not posed. Not forced. It was the look she used to give me when we danced barefoot in the kitchen. There was one message that made my stomach turn. "Can't wait for this weekend. He still has no clue?" She replied with a laughing emoji and, "Not a single one. He's sweet, but slow. Sweet, but slow." That's what I was to her now. A clueless fool funding her second life. And in that moment, something in me changed. I wasn't going to confront her with tears in my eyes. I wasn't going to ask her why. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to ruin the lie. And I was going to start with dinner. Saturday came faster than I expected. She wore that same red dress I had seen in the pictures. The one she never wore around me. The one she probably bought with my money. For him. I asked where she was going, though I already knew the answer. She smiled that hollow smile and said, "Claire's birthday dinner. Might be a late one. Claire moved to Oregon 3 months ago." I nodded, even helped her zip up the back like a good little husband. She kissed my cheek. Habit, nothing more. And clicked out the door on heels. She couldn't walk in without his arm. I waited 3 minutes. Then I left. I arrived at the restaurant before them. Table for 2, name's Darla. I told the host with the confidence of a man she thought was oblivious. They walked in 10 minutes later. She didn't see me, not at first. Too caught up in her performance. The way she touched his arm, laughed just a little too loud, made sure everyone noticed her. She always wanted an audience. Tonight she had one. I sat where she couldn't miss me, just far enough to be invisible until I wanted to be seen. The waiter, the same guy from the night I first saw them, noticed me. I gave him a nod, slid the ring box into his hand again. This time, it was wrapped in a note she couldn't ignore. I watched him cross the room, watched her notice the box. She froze. She opened it. Inside was the ring, and a receipt. For the dress, for the wine, for the dinner she claimed she was too sick to attend last Friday. All in my name, all paid with my card. And beneath that, a simple napkin. One line, in her handwriting. "Don't be dramatic, Elden. I'd never hurt you. Her lover looked confused. She looked around in a panic. But I wasn't there anymore. I was already gone. I didn't wait for her to come home. I didn't need to see the tears or the excuses or the rage that would follow. For the first time in years, I chose silence. Not because I was weak, but because I was finally done letting her set the terms of our story. When she walked into our home hours later, I wasn't there. The closet was empty on my side. The photos were gone from the walls. The note I left was short. No yelling. No pleading. Just the words I'd been too scared to say out loud. You chose your stage. I'm done playing the role. I moved into a small place across town. It's quiet, old, smells like dust and memories, but it's mine. The first night alone was strange. I made too much pasta, folded laundry that didn't belong to anyone else. But when I laid down, for the first time in forever, I wasn't waiting for her to come home. I wasn't wondering who she was texting. I wasn't shrinking inside my own life. I was just breathing. She tried to reach out, texted, called, even showed up once. Said she never meant to hurt me. Said she was confused. I didn't respond. Not out of anger, but because I finally understood something. Closure doesn't come from the people who broke you. It comes when you stop letting them. Now, every morning, I walk to a small cafe that knows my name. I bring a book. I sit by the window, and I live. Not perfectly, not loudly, but honestly. So yeah, I'm Elden, a man who once handed a waiter a ring instead of a threat. A man who watched his marriage dissolve from behind a napkin. And somehow I'm still here, still standing. And maybe, just maybe, finally free. Thanks for watching. If you've ever been in a moment where you saw the truth and walked away from the lie, tell us about it in the comments. We'd love to hear your story too. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if this resonated with you. You're watching Reddit Confessions, where the truth always finds a voice.